If you're loving this kind of real, unfiltered sports content that cuts through the noise and brings you the truth, hit that subscribe button right now. We're on a mission to reach 1,000 subscribers, and every single one of you matters. Your subscription helps us keep bringing you content that the mainstream media won't touch. So click subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's grow this community together. Now let's get back to this story. The Cleveland Browns are spiraling, and everyone in that building knows it. The fans know it. The coaching staff knows it. Even Mary Kay Cabot, who spent months burying Shedeur Sanders, now knows it. But what's fascinating about this entire situation is how predictable it all was. Anyone who actually watched Shedeur play in college, anyone who paid attention to what he did at Jackson State in Colorado, could see this coming from a mile away. This wasn't some hidden talent that nobody knew about. This was a quarterback who put up historic numbers, who showed elite accuracy under pressure, who carried his team on his back week after week. But the media, led by people like Mary Kay, chose to ignore all of that evidence. They chose to focus on everything except his actual performance on the field. Let's talk about what Shedeur actually accomplished before he even got to Cleveland. At Jackson State under his father, Deion Sanders, he threw for over 3,000 yards in back-to-back seasons. He posted a completion percentage over 67% while playing at the FCS level against defenses that were specifically game planning to stop him. Everyone knew he was the best player on that field every single week, and he still dominated. Then he moved to Colorado, and this is where the story gets really interesting. Colorado was a disaster before Shedeur got there. They won one game the season before he arrived. One single game. The program was in shambles. The roster was depleted. The offensive line was barely functional, and Shedeur walked into that situation and immediately transformed the entire program. That 74% completion percentage didn't happen by accident. It didn't happen because he was throwing nothing but screen passes and checkdowns. He was making every throw in the playbook, often while running for his life, because that offensive line couldn't protect him. He got sacked over 50 times that season, and he still put up those numbers. That's not a system quarterback. That's not a game manager. That's an elite talent playing at an elite level despite everything working against him. But here's what the critics said. Here's what Mary Kay said. They claimed his numbers were inflated because of the system. They claimed he benefited from playing weaker competition. They claimed he couldn't handle NFL speed and NFL complexity. Every single one of those critiques has been proven wrong. In training camp, the reports from inside the Browns facility were clear. Shedeur was making throws that had coaches stopping practice just to watch. He was showing arm angles that veteran quarterbacks don't have. He was displaying a level of accuracy that you rarely see from rookies. But none of that mattered to Mary Kay. She had her narrative and she was sticking to it. Kenny Pickett was better. Joe Flacco was better. Dylan Gabriel processes better. All of it was nonsense, but she kept pushing it anyway. The preseason game against Carolina should have ended all the debate. Shedeur went out there and played like a seasoned veteran. He was calm in the pocket. He went through his progressions. He put the ball exactly where it needed to be. He showed mobility when plays broke down. He did everything you want to see from a young quarterback, and he did it against NFL defenses with NFL speed. But even after that performance, the narrative didn't change. The Browns kept giving reps to other quarterbacks. They kept treating Shedeur like he was a project, like he needed years of development before he'd be ready. And Mary Kay kept writing her hit pieces, kept questioning why they even drafted him, kept pushing the idea that he didn't belong in the NFL. Now let's fast forward to where we are today. The Browns are losing games they should win. Their offense looks stuck in mud. Dylan Gabriel is out there playing scared, checking down on every play, missing throws that should be automatic. The defense is exhausted from being on the field too long because the offense can't sustain drives. Kevin Stefanski is running out of answers and running out of time. The fan base is in full revolt. People are wearing bags over their heads again. The local sports radio shows are getting flooded with calls demanding change. And in the middle of all this chaos, there sits Shedeur Sanders on the sideline, watching it all unfold, knowing he could fix it, knowing he has the skills to turn this entire season around if someone would just give him the chance. That's when Mary Kay's flip-flop becomes so transparently obvious. She's watching the same disaster everyone else is watching. She's seeing Dylan Gabriel struggle. She's seeing the offense sputter. She's hearing the rumblings from inside the building that maybe, just maybe, they made a massive mistake by not giving Shedeur the starting job from day one. And suddenly, miraculously, she discovers that Shedeur has elite accuracy. Suddenly, she notices that he has this rare combination of touch and arm talent. Suddenly, she's comparing him to Josh Allen and calling him a natural. The audacity is breathtaking. The hypocrisy is stunning. But more than anything, it's insulting to everyone who's been paying attention. Because here's the real question that nobody seems to be asking. If Shedeur really does have all these elite traits, if his accuracy really is that special, if he really is a natural at playing quarterback, then why did Mary Kay spend months telling everyone the exact opposite? There are only two possible answers, and neither one makes her look good. Either she was lying then, which means she was deliberately trying to sabotage a young quarterback's reputation for reasons we can only speculate about. Or she's lying now, trying to save face and protect her credibility as the Browns' quarterback situation falls apart and everyone realizes they should have been playing Shedeur all along. Pick your poison. Either way, she loses all credibility. The fans in Cleveland aren't stupid. They can see what's happening. They've watched this franchise make terrible decision after terrible decision at the quarterback position for decades. They've seen them draft guys who had no business being first-round picks. They've seen them overpay for veterans who were washed up. They've seen them cycle through coordinator after coordinator, system after system, never finding stability or success. And now they're watching it happen again in real time. They finally have a quarterback with legitimate franchise potential sitting on their roster, and he's not playing because the people in charge are too stubborn or too scared or too committed to their previous mistakes to admit they got it wrong. The Mike Tomlin comments after the Steelers game were perfect because they highlighted just how bizarre the Browns' decision-making has been. Trading Joe Flacco to a division rival was bad enough. Flacco knew the system, he knew the division, and whatever his limitations were, he was at least capable of running the offense. But to trade him after just 4 games and then replace him with Dylan Gabriel, a rookie who clearly wasn't ready while Shedeur Sanders sits on the bench, that's not just bad decision making, that's organizational malpractice. And Tomlin knew it. That's why his comments had that edge to them. He was basically thanking the Browns for making his job easier. What makes this whole situation even more frustrating is the pattern we keep seeing with young black quarterbacks in the NFL. The skepticism, the extra scrutiny, the constant questioning of their intelligence and processing ability, the assumption that they're athletic but not cerebral, that they can run but can't think. Shedeur Sanders has been fighting against those stereotypes his entire career, and Mary Kay's coverage of him fit that pattern perfectly. She questioned his processing, she questioned his readiness, she compared him unfavorably to less talented white quarterbacks. And now that reality is forcing her to acknowledge his talent. She wants everyone to forget about all of that and pretend she was on his side all along. That's not how this works. The internet has receipts, the fans have memories, and they're not letting her off the hook. Let's talk about what happens next, because this story is far from over. The Browns have a decision to make, and they need to make it soon. Every week they waste with Dylan Gabriel under center is another week of lost development for Shedeur. It's another week of their season slipping away. It's another week closer to Kevin Stefanski losing his job. At some point, probably within the next few weeks, the pressure is going to become too much. The losses are going to pile up, the fan revolt is going to intensify, and Stefanski is going to have to make the switch. He's going to have to put Shedeur in the starting lineup, not because he wants to, but because he'll have no other choice. His job security will depend on it. And when that moment comes, when Shedeur finally gets his opportunity to show what he can do as an NFL starter, one of two things will happen. Either he'll succeed and prove that everyone who doubted him was wrong, that all those months of Mary Kay's hit pieces were baseless character assassination, that the Browns wasted precious time by not starting him from day one, or he'll struggle, at least initially, because he's a rookie quarterback being thrown into a difficult situation with limited weapons and a shaky offensive line, and all those same critics will come come crawling out of the woodwork to say, "I told you so," to claim they were right all along, to ignore all the context and all the extenuating circumstances. But here's what I believe will actually happen based on everything we know about Shedeur Sanders as a player and as a person. He's going to succeed. Not immediately, not perfectly, but he's going to show enough to prove that he's the franchise quarterback the Browns have been searching for. He's going to make throws that Dylan Gabriel couldn't make. He's going to extend plays with his mobility. He's going to show poise in the pocket that belies his experience level. And most importantly, he's going to give the Browns offense something it hasn't had all season: a spark, an energy, a sense of possibility. The receivers are going to play better because the ball placement will be better. The running game is going to improve because defenses will have to respect the passing attack. The offensive line is going to settle down because Shedeur's quick release and mobility will help mask some of their deficiencies. And suddenly, this Browns offense that's looked completely lifeless for weeks is going to start scoring points and moving the ball and looking like an actual NFL offense again. That's what elite quarterback play does. It elevates everyone around it, and Shedeur has that ability. He's demonstrated it at every level he's played. There's no reason to think he can't do it in Cleveland. Mary Kay is going to take credit for recognizing his talent, of course. She's going to point to her recent comments about his elite accuracy and his natural ability and act like she was on the Shedeur bandwagon all along. She's going to conveniently forget about all those months of negative coverage, all those questions about whether he belonged, all those comparisons to quarterbacks who clearly weren't as talented, and some people will let her get away with it because that's how the media works. They protect their own, but the fans won't forget, the internet won't forget, and most importantly, Shedeur won't forget. He's going to remember who had his back when things were tough and who was out there trying to tear him down. The Browns organization should be embarrassed. They should be ashamed that they let outside noise and media narratives influence their decision making. They should be apologizing to their fan base for wasting another season with poor quarterback evaluation and management. But they won't, because that's not how NFL front offices operate. They'll just quietly make the switch to Shedeur, let him play, hope he succeeds, and then take credit for drafting him if he does. That's the game. That's how it works. But at least the fans will know the truth. At least everyone who's been paying attention will understand what really happened here. The broader lesson in all of this is about media accountability and the responsibility that comes with covering professional sports. Mary Kay Cabot has a platform. She has access. She has the ability to shape narratives and influence public opinion. And she used that power irresponsibly. She used it to tear down a young quarterback who hadn't done anything to deserve that treatment, except be confident, be talented, and be the son of Deion Sanders. That's not journalism. That's agenda-driven hackery. And it needs to be called out every single time it happens because young athletes deserve better. They deserve fair coverage based on their actual performance, not on preconceived notions and biases. Shedeur Sanders is going to have a long and successful NFL career. He's going to make a lot of people eat their words. He's going to prove that the doubters were wrong and the believers were right. And when he does, when he's leading the Browns to playoff victories and putting up Pro Bowl numbers and establishing himself as one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL, we're all going to look back at this moment and shake our heads at how obvious it was all along. The talent was there. The accuracy was there. The intelligence was there. The processing was there. Everything you need in a franchise quarterback was sitting right there on the Browns roster, and they almost let it slip away because they listened to the wrong voices. But it's not too late. The Browns still have time to get this right. They still have Shedeur Sanders on their roster. They still have the opportunity to build around him and turn this franchise into a consistent winner. All they have to do is make the obvious decision that should have been made months ago. Start Shedeur Sanders. Let him play. Give him the keys to the offense. And watch what happens when you finally let an elite talent do what he was born to do. The Mary Kay Cabot flip-flop is just the beginning of this story. It's the moment when the dam started to crack. When the narrative started to shift. when people started to realize that maybe, just maybe, they've been wrong about Shedeur Sanders all along. And as that realization spreads, as more people start to see what's been obvious to those of us who've been paying attention, the pressure on the Browns to make the switch is only going to intensify. This is happening. Shedeur Sanders is going to be the Browns' starting quarterback very soon. And when he is, we're all going to witness one of the most satisfying, I told you so, moments in recent sports history. The receipts don't lie, and neither does elite quarterback play.